Don't forget that this tutorial is part of a series of tutorials which you can access on our YouTube playlist, or alternatively, if you would like to, you can purchase the whole course on Udemy. There should be a link to the YouTube playlist and a link to our Udemy course, which should always provide the best price in the video description. Hopefully at this point you have some underpinning principles related to building relationships between tables, identifying foreign keys, and then applying those foreign keys into your Django models, including any self-referencing foreign keys. If you remember, I introduced 3 types of relationships: foreign keys, or one-to-many relationships, many-to-many, and one-to-one relationships. So now we're going to turn our attention to many-to-many relationships. Looking at the database ERD, we don't currently have any tables that require many-to-many or one-to-one relationships. So we are going to expand the schema to include some more tables so that we can start to practice implementing many-to-many relationships. And then we will go ahead and create a one-to-many relationship table, but we won't move forward with that. We won't include that in the final design. We are going to introduce 2 new tables. That's the attribute table and the product type table. Now, these aren't tables that I've just magically created. Through going through the normalization process, which I haven't introduced in this course, the design process to build this set of tables, these 2 tables were introduced in the normalization process. So they come about through the need of storing multiple types of attributes associated to, for example, a product line. Now, do remember that a product line, so let's start with a product. So a product might be a shoe, a type of shoe. So let's just go for shoe 1. And then there might be different versions of that shoe 1, the red version, the black version, the different sizes. Okay, but some products will have multiple attributes. So just imagine if you were to try and model in the product line table here a TV. Imagine all the different criteria, the size, the shape, the weight, and so on. There's lots of different specifications that you want to record about that TV that you want to show the user, of course, when they actually browse the product. Now, that would leave this table being quite large if you have multiple types of products, because you would have hundreds of different specifications, data that you want to store about those products. So that's not realistic to store all within the product line table. So ultimately, through the design process, we created an attribute table, and this will hold all the attributes that will be eventually associated to product lines. So the shoe, in this case, color, the shoe's size, the shoe's weight, size, color. Those are all attributes that will get stored in the attribute table, and then we're going to associate them to the product line table. So straight away, you can see there's going to be a relationship between the product line and the attribute table. So the second table that we're going to include is the product type table. Now, this is a little bit more complex to understand, and it is something that I will slowly introduce in this section. And then when we start to actually query this database, we will also talk about this in more detail, and it'll become a lot clearer why this table is required or how this table come about. But ultimately, it is a product type table. We're going to store, at the very basic or very minimum, we're going to store the product type name. So that is going to be, for example, TV or shoes. It is somewhat similar to the category table, you might think, but it is not going to be how we're going to be utilizing it. So you can see it does have a self-referencing foreign key, which we will implement. So here it's going to also include some sort of hierarchical structure. So, for example, we might have a product type which is clothes, and then a subproduct of that will be shoes or t-shirts or shorts, trousers, and so on. So we are going to create that setup. Now, eventually the product type will be connected to attributes, because each product will have a certain amount of attributes. Each product will have a very similar type of attribute, shall I say. So we'll lead into that shortly. So there's 2 tables that we need to create. So let's create these first. So back in our models, we're just going to put in place, we're just going to practice what we've learned previously. So first of all, we want the attribute. So this is going to be the attribute table, models.model, extend from model. And we're going to need a few fields. If we follow along with the diagram, So the primary key is going to be created for us. So we're going to need a name and then the description, right? Now, if it's handy, we can just copy and paste. If it's quicker for you, you can just quick copy and paste. Very similar types of fields. We do have a description field up here that we can just copy and paste. If that's quicker for you, else just type it out. But you can see everything is exactly the same like we have already learned. So we have the data type. Now we might want to change the maximum length for the name. That seems suitable for now. And then the description, you might enforce a description in this case for the attributes. That's something, again, that you would need to decide based upon your own preferences or the requirements of the application. I'm going to leave it null, and that's not a problem. So that's the attribute table completed. And then the final table we're going to build is the product type. So product type. And then this is going to have a one field, which is name. So I can just copy and paste that down. And then we're going to have a foreign key, self-referring foreign key called parent. So we'll put that in now. So models.foreign key. And then, of course, we're going to need to specify, in this case, self. And then let's go ahead and set the on delete. So I think in this case, on delete, we will set to cascade. Models.cascade. There we go. Right, so let's move now to the next tutorial where we're going to talk about relationships. Of course, this is going to end up with many-to-many relationships. That's where we're leading to. So let's take a look.